Hello, welcome to Brew from the Bothy podcast. This is episode 31. My name is Fay. Welcome. Lovely to have you here. Hopefully you have a little brew and you're gonna sip away and craft away as I give you some crochet, knitting, yarn chat. Let's crack on. I'll have a quick slap first. This is my second coffee of the day because I have been here, there and everywhere over the last couple of weeks, and more sleep and more coffee is definitely required. Let's kick off with what I am wearing. I think this is the second time I've worn this top on the podcast. It is called the Knox top. It's by Sari Nordlund. Originally I wanted to wear it just as like a summer top, but actually, unusually for me, I find the wool to be just a little bit too rustic. It is made with British wool from Woolly Knits, and so instead I'm kind of wearing it spring autumn instead underneath a cheesecloth shirt, which is light enough that I'm not overheating, but I'm also thick enough that I'm not getting any of the prickle through, like onto my chest in particular would be like the worst part for me in my back. So the Knox top, I'll pop links down below for you if you want to have a look at it, to both the pattern and the wool that I used. But this came fresh out of my spring summer wardrobe, which my bedroom looks a mess. I've got clothes everywhere because I'm doing the transition from autumn winter into spring summer, so there are just clothes everywhere. But Matthew's not back until very late tonight, so hopefully I'll have it all sorted and he might be able to get into bed when he gets home. Pretty sure he'll be appreciative of that. Right, let's crack on. I've got a lot to share with you. As I said earlier, I've been all over the place, which means I can see a lot of yarn to my left, but I've got quite a bit to show you, and I'm going to start with what is off my hooks, and it was a very quick and simple little necktie that I did. This is my one way or another pattern, which is a necktie, a scarf and a cowl. And I just needed, because I've been away quite a lot, I just needed some quick little repetitive projects that I could do and not think about and chuck in a bag en route, like when I was in transport or, sat with friends chatting. And so I decided to quickly make myself up a little summer version of that. And I used Drops Cotton Merino, which I've never used before. Honestly, this is such a lovely yarn. It's 50 grams, and I'm pretty sure it's a DK weight. Let me just get the proper info for you. 50 grams, 110 meters, so 220 for 100 grams, and it is 50% wool, 50% cotton. It's the unicolor, even though this one is actually a bit of a marl. It's quite a subtle marl, so actually when it is made up, you probably from a distance it doesn't read as a marl until you get a little bit closer, and then it almost just looks a little bit pixelated. So that is made, and the plan is just to be able to, it's just 50 grams, that's it. It's enough to be able to do one little tie and keep my neck warm. So this for me would be like down on the beach, bit of a bluster going on, and I want to keep my neck warm. I don't think I'm doing it justice with the way that I've done that, because I've just quickly scooted it on. But you can wear it with a little bit at the front. You could probably do a fancier tie with it, but I'm not. And actually, I've just thought you could probably also headband it, because it's got enough, just enough to be able to do that. So that was a very quick make. I did most of that while I was in Edinburgh at the Really Good gathering. So just 50 grams of DK. At the moment that pattern is written for 4-ply and lace weight, so I'm trying to build up an extension of it for DK. But basically, if you wanted to try it, if you've already got the one way or another pattern, I used a 4.5mm hook for the DK version, and then used the exact same information for the 4-ply lace weight as I did for the DK. So Nice little 50 grammer, which means that this, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think this was probably under £4 for the yarn. So I've got a nice little necktie for £4, which feels like a bit of a bargain. This yarn I would happily use again. I think it would make an amazing like spring autumn weight when it's still warm but there's a little nip in the air jumper cardigan, knitted and crocheted. It's got a really good twist on it. It wasn't splitting at all. And there's a bit of give in it. It just feels bizarrely not quite like cotton and not quite like wool. It's that lovely happy medium between the two. And I haven't done a lot with cotton blends. I bought quite a few when I was in Spain because I want to do more and understand them as a yarn. But this I would just recommend. So if you've never tried Drops Cotton Merino, the colours are really nice. There's not loads of colours in it, but they are really nice. And it was just a treat to work with. It was really lovely. So at some point I might do more with this in terms of like a jumper or a little vest top or something, because it would be absolutely affordable and I know that it works up very nicely. It's lovely to wear as well. So that is what is off my hooks. Moving on to on my hooks, I have quite a few submission bits and pieces ongoing at the moment that I can't really show you. But one thing that I can show you, although it feels like a bit of a cheat telling you this is on my hooks, because wait till you see how little I've done of it. That is it. But I wanted to show you the yarn. This is the new Sea Fader yarn by John Arbon Textiles, and they've just brought out the lace weight, which I have been waiting for. So this is the very, very beginnings of another Omni shawl, but this colourway is called Hydra, and this comes in at 300 metres for 50 grams. So it's a proper heavy lace weight, and I needed a swap out because the one that was in the pattern that is no longer manufactured, that was the alpaca lace weight. So this I'm going to quickly work up as a 50 gram option to be able to swap that out in the pattern that I've just done a glow up for and uploaded. So work needs to continue on that one, but that should be a really quick make. But look at the colour. It's like it's proper, I mean, it's called Hydra. The whole range is based on mythical sea creatures. And so this colour is just sea jadey gorgeousness. Not quite green, not quite blue, bit of everything. And because of the lace content, it is 90% British wool, 10% mulberry silk. So you can just see little dots of silver in there and the shine that the silk is bringing. So I'm looking forward to doing more of that, and I need lots of like easy, mindful projects at the moment because there's a lot going on and I seem to be travelling a lot at the moment. So this is kind of a perfect one. Next time I will have got beyond this, but I cast on while I was at Wonderwool Wales. Well, hooked it on at Wonderwool Wales, and the light wasn't good enough, and there was a group of us talking, and it was too much to start a project off, so that's when I let it off. More of this to follow in the coming couple of weeks, I would have thought. So that is everything that is kind of off my hooks, on my hooks. I'll pop links for all of those things for the yarns and the patterns down below in the show notes. And I am going to move on to on my needles. I have been making really good progress on my twist cardigan, which kind of surprises me because I'm testing out that new method of using Portuguese pearl with it, but it's going really well. So, oh, look at those colours! That's the first time I've probably seen it properly lit up in daylight because I've been doing a lot of nighttime crafting on this. So if I turn it round, this is the top back of the cardigan. I've bunched it up. I really need to get it onto a longer cable, and then it basically comes round. So I'm knitting it top down. I've got a few more stripes to put in place before I go back into what is my main colour, this one at the top, and then a button band. Not that it has buttons, but a band is added all the way around at the very end. And I am just starting on stripe 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just starting on stripe 5 of 8, which makes me feel like I've done quite a lot of progress. But I'm not sure. It doesn't look like a lot of cardigan there. So I think I still have a ways to go with this. But because I'm so far through the stripes, I think it's given me a false sense of security that I'm quite far through it. But I am really happy with the colour choices that I have made with this, and the fact that I'm using up some quite deep stash that I had, so that makes me happy. So I had to rebuy some of this colour. This was a mill special. This one was a mill special, and this is one of the standard. These two are standard Knit by Numbers colours that you can get now in their range. I'll pop details through for all of the colours that I'm using, but I'm really happy, and this definitely feels like, it's right in my wheelhouse of colours, isn't it? This definitely feels like something that I am going to get a lot of wear out of, which makes me happy. Sometimes I make things and it's a bit like, am I going to wear you? Am I actually going to wear you? And I have some jumpers like that in my closet, so I'm trying to make firmer decisions on what I make, not be swayed by other things, and just do things that are in colours that I know I will love and that will be in my wardrobe, which will mean a lot of blue, teals, jades and rusty colours, because they're my go-to, and they go with all the navy and browns that are in my wardrobe. So I'm really happy with this. I'm enjoying the process. I don't know how, but I managed to do 10 row stripes rather than 8 row stripes, so I'm going to swap it around a little. It might have been a subconscious good decision, because it means that I can circle out the 3 colours that I've got for my stripes, and add a 9th stripe in at the bottom and maybe lengthen the cardigan. I have more than enough yarn to do that. I have got 500 grams to go at, and it is quite an open fabric that I have got. So really pleased. I'll keep on pluttering away with this, and I really would love to have it done for the mill open weekend, which I'm working at, which is the first weekend in June. I know a few of you are coming down to that, which is amazing. Again, I'll put details in the drop down box, but it's the John Arbon mill open weekend. It's a great fun weekend. If you fancy coming and joining us, you get to do the mill tour, and you can see all the vintage machinery in use making yarn. There's a little cafe, and all of their ranges are out, and there are other vendors there as well. So if you fancied it, first weekend of June, the John Arbon mill open weekend, and I'll be there selling yarn, talking to people, talking about crochet and knitting, and generally helping people choose colours and the right size, and looking at patterns, and generally having a very nice time with my yarn family. So that is the Twist Cardigan by Ambah. I'm doing it in 4-ply Knit by Numbers, which is, I've got some old stuff there, which is the Falklands Merino, and I've got a newer one, which is the new blend, which is 50% Bluefaced Leicester, 50% Falklands Merino. I don't need to gauge swatch it, because when the new blend came out, I gauge swatched it just to check that I could go between the two. That was probably about 2 years ago now, and my gauge was bang on even with the new blend, so I don't feel the need to re-swatch for this project. Yeah, really happy with it. Looking forward to being able to wear it soon, hopefully. So that is on my needles, and then off my needles is the hat that I'm wearing on the front cover. This is called the Inbetweenie Beanie. It's nearly been called so many things. This design came about because I was trying on at Yarndale a couple of years back. I was trying on a beanie, not a beanie, a beret, and oh my word, I do not suit a beret. There are a lot of hats that I don't suit, I quite suit a beanie sometimes if the length is right and the width is right, and I kind of suit a tam a little bit, and I wanted to create something that was in between a beanie and a beret, and so I designed the Inbetweenie Beanie. It has just come out. I got my copy yesterday in issue 269 of Knitting magazine, which is the preppy version, and so I can finally show you the Inbetweenie Beanie hat. Let me just show you their photography. Their photography's come out a little bit darker than mine. I'm trying to do this and not show you the pattern, but the model looks beautiful in it. But I thought I would show you the actual hat itself as well, because colours are actually a little bit brighter than their photography. So this has got a load of increases that come in right after the rib, which means if you wanted to block it on a plate and make it a little bit more tam or a little bit more beret, you could. But if you wanted to keep it as like more of a beanie style, you can do that too. And you can do it so you get the little overlap at the back. Basically, it's the kind of hat that you can make and then block it to the style that you want. So I like it like this, where it's not a really tight beanie and I've got a little bit of length, but I haven't got like the boob thing going on the top of my head. So hence why Inbetweenie Beanie, at one point it was going to be called the Neighboury hat, and we changed it to Inbetweenie Beanie. My plan is I also want to make a cowl in this design with these colours, and I also want to design some mittens as well, but that will be probably next year, knowing how many submissions and commissions I've got on this year. So this was made in John Arbon Textiles 4-ply. It uses the mini skein, so you could also do it as a scrap busting project. I can't remember all of the names of the colours, but I will pop them in the show notes below so you can add them all in. I only know that the navy at the top is blackthorn because it's kind of navy and kind of black, and I love it. Yeah, so Inbetweenie Beanie is in Knitting magazine issue 269. It's been a long time since I put a design in for a knitting magazine. It's probably been, I don't know, maybe 5 years. So that was a long time coming, and I designed this maybe 18 months ago. So yes, definitely a long time coming, but I'm really pleased with the design and how it worked out, and I love the colours, I love the vibrancy of them. So more to come with this design next year, I think, because I love it so much that I don't think it should just stop with a hat. I think it needs a whole matchy outfit going on with that. I'll pop links into Knitting magazine as well in case you are interested in their preppy issue. It's full of really lovely knitwear designs. So I have been, it feels like here, there and everywhere, and it's not finished yet. There's a lot going on in the yarny world, and I love to be part of it. So first up, I went up to Edinburgh with my friends Rosina from Zanes and Rogers and Michelle from Dora Does, and we stayed in Edinburgh for a couple of nights, and then my friend Charlie came and joined us. She moved up to Scotland last year before last, so I got to spend some time with her as well, and it was just like lovely yarny chat with friends. It was such a lovely weekend. I was shattered by the end of it, but it was really good fun. So we went to all of the yarn shops in Edinburgh. There are 4 main yarn shops up there, and I'm going to do a blog post like I did for the Madrid yarn shops that I went and visited, so I can show you what the yarn shops look like, the kind of things that they do, their opening hours, how you would get there, but also which ones might suit your yarn preferences most and not. And I'll share everything that I bought in each of those yarn shops because I bought something in all of them. So I also went to the Woolly Good Gathering, which is the yarn festival in Edinburgh, and that was good fun as well. If you haven't been or you're thinking about going, it's probably one of the most considerate yarn festivals I've ever been to. It's very thoughtfully led and managed. They have a quiet opening time on the Saturday morning from, I think it's 9:30 until 11, where you can go and everybody tries to be masked. There are fewer people in there, so if you are easily overstimulated, you can go within that morning period and hopefully get round all of the vendors before everybody else turns up and the noise and the number of people in the room ramps up. I know that they also look after their vendors really well, and I know from doing many yarn shows over many years that when your vendors are happy, your customers are happy because it's just really good vibes all out. When vendors are unhappy because something has gone wrong or it's been a difficult show, it kind of bleeds through to the customers, and Really Good Gathering was just a really good, friendly, lovely atmosphere. What I particularly love about it is that there's no like knitterati BS around it. You don't get people cordoning themselves off to have selfies taken because they're like famous knitterati. There's none of that rubbish that goes on at that or at Wonderwool Wheels either. So if you wanted like a really good couple of wholesome with great vendors yarn shows to go to, I would definitely recommend Really Good Gathering for Scotland and Wonderwool Wales. Now Wonderwool Wales is massive. That's where I've just been this weekend. It's in 3 massive agricultural halls, but it's very well spaced out. So at no point are you feeling enclosed. It can get a little bit like that on stands, but then you can choose to just go on. But the walkways are really wide, so they're very accessible. And even though it's in an agricultural building, it's on concrete that is really easy to get up and down. We have a number of wheelchair users and mobility scooter users that come to that show, especially on the Sunday because it's a bit quieter and the access is, I believe, really good. So 2 shows that I would thoroughly recommend. We have a number of international visitors that now come to them. A lot of people that were coming in from Scandinavia, US, Canada for both of those shows. So if maybe you live abroad and you're looking for a UK yarn show to come to, they're the 2 that I would recommend, especially if you've never been to Wales before, you've never been to Scotland before, then there are 2 areas that are particularly beautiful and you could have a really fun weekend at. Let me show you what I bought at both of those yarn festivals and the shops. So I'm going to go through this very quickly because there's more yarn than I need, but it was yarn that I kind of had wanted to make a beeline for. So in Fibre Yard in Edinburgh, that's the newest yarn shop in Edinburgh. I love this shop a lot. It's nicely curated with amazing price points from like really budget friendly wool and yarns right the way up to high end stuff. And I've never used Ramagarn before. It is 100% Norwegian wool, and this is coming in at 175 meters for 50 grams. This was £4.50, which means that for 100 grams you're well under £10 for Norwegian wool, which I think is a really good price point. So I got a few of them because I have a cowl design that I want to crochet up, and so these are the colours that I chose. I was going for very much early autumn but quite zingy colours. It's lovely and soft as well, as a sport weight, kind of a heavy sport weight, light sport weight yarn. So I've never used Ramagarn before. If you have, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on it. I'm quite excited about it. It feels soft but rustic. It doesn't have like an overly manufactured twist on it, so I think this is going to be really fun to work with. Have you used it? I'd love to know what you think of Ramagarn, whether you've knitted or crocheted with it. I think it's like quite a firm favourite for quite a few designers because of the price point. It makes it a very affordable proper woolly wool to work with, so I am excited about that. also from Fibre Yard. I knew that they had this in stock, and so I knew that I was going to pick this up. This was a bit of a splurge, so this is what I'm saying, that they've got like really good budget wools and yarns and then upwards. I also picked up some Cardiff cashmere. This is 25 grams of cashmere coming in at 112 meters, so quite a light light 4-ply fingering yarn. But I'm hoping this will come across. It is a mid-grey base, but it has little blips in all the highlighter colours. So we've got a bright pink, a bright green, bright orange, bright yellow in there. I just thought it was a bit of fun, and I want to make a little mini project necktie with this. It might, to be honest, it might be another one way or another, because I can't stop making those neckties. I love them. And I love that they're crocheted rather than knitting, like it's not another Sophie scarf. So it might be another one of them with just 25 grams. That was £15 for 25 grams of cashmere, which is about the going rate for cashmere, is usually about £60 for 100 grams. But I love that it was in a 25 gram ball, which makes it a lot more affordable, and it's super soft. I just really like the fun element of the highlighter blips in it though. So yes to that. And I think it might have been Sophia that told me about this yarn in the podcast comments. This is called Knit Wanderer, and it is by Wonderwool, who seem to be doing a lot more yarn rather than just fibres. They do a lot of wholesale to spinning, weaving, dyeing guilds, but also to yarn dyers as well, and they seem to be making more and more of their own fully finished yarn. The reason I was interested in this one is because it is 80% British wool and 20% recycled nylon, which I think we're going to see more and more of coming into our yarns, and I'm always here for that. I'd love it if I could do more socks without nylon, but nylon just does do what it needs to do, and so having it as recycled nylon is better environmentally. It's still not ideal, but it is better, so I want to give this a go and see what it's like. It is coming in at 350 meters per 100 grams, so a decent light sport kind of heavy 4-ply. I quite like the marling on it as well. It's very subtle with the darker yarn, and the colourway that I've got is called Compass. So, and it's British wool, made in Yorkshire, and when I heard about this yarn, I said as soon as I see it I will give it a go. So when I found this in, I think this might also have been Fibre Yard, I bought it straight away. And then I also went to Cathy's Knits, which is probably one of the most central yarn shops in Edinburgh, and that this is hot off the press. This is a brand new yarn, and I just thought it was quite an interesting one. So I know that lots of people want to be able to get that effect of double stranding with mohair, but they do not like mohair and do not like alpaca. And then what do? Because you want that fluffiness, but you don't want those fibres. And Bahramu have just brought out a new yarn called Wool. This was so new that Cathy had only just put it on the shelves and was starting a swatch with it, and Cathy let me have a little go and do a couple of rows on her swatch to see what I felt of it, and really liked it. So the concept is that it's a brushed wool that will then give that fibrous feel like you've got mohair in it. So this is a 50 gram hank, and it is 235 meters in that 50 grams. So quite a light 4-ply fingering weight yarn, and it is, I believe, 100% British wool, but it has been brushed, so it's got that kind of fluffiness that you would get with mohair. Sorry, there's one of my hairs. You don't want that. So it's got that kind of brushed mohair effect, but you wouldn't have to double strand the yarn. So I got this because one, I thought it would make an interesting pair of trainer socks potentially, and also I can use this as part of my mega blog post on mohair yarns and floof yarns. So an interesting alternative that I want to try and test and see whether it does do the same thing and whether it looks the same, because that's kind of what they are pitching it as, I think, or at least that's how I felt it was being pitched to me in the yarn shop. So that was coming in at 50 grams, £10.50, so it's quite a high price point, I think. But obviously there's a load more manufacturing that is involved in brushing up that yarn and getting it floofy. So I'm intrigued to see how this works up. I saw it on one other shop when I was in Edinburgh, and they had it on at £12.50, but that was right on the Royal Mile, which is like a premium place to go shopping. So I'll give that a try. Again, I'll link it below in case you're interested in trying that as well. And then I thought I was done on my way back from Edinburgh, and I stopped off at my favourite motorway service station at T-Bay, and I discovered that they had their own yarn. Like, people of the UK, if I say T-Bay, you will know what I mean. Westmoreland service station in Cumbria. It is like a pilgrimage. It's been going for decades, and it is not like a service station that has a McDonald's and a Costa coffee. It's run by the family that sold the land to the government to build the motorway, and they said, great, we'll sell the land, but we want to provide the service stop for that. So it's always been family run. It's one of our very few independent service stations in the UK. In fact, I think the only other one is the one that the same family built in Gloucester. The service is there, and then there's one in Scotland that they took over as well. So it's just like, if you're ever up and down the motorway network, it's off junction 38. And I have been going to it for as long as I can remember, because we used to live in the very north of Scotland and our family were down in Wiltshire. So we used to have to I don't know whether my dad was driving for like maybe 9 or 12 hours. So we always made a point of stopping at T-Bay. So to see that they had their own yarn, and they obviously have their own sheep because they do their own butchery, they farm their own animal stock, they do a lot with their own vegetables. So to know that they're now using their yarn beyond the jumpers that they usually manufacture to have their actual own yarn, I was like, well, I kind of have to, because it's T-Bay and I love them and I love their ethos. But also 100 grams of 4-ply, 350 metres, so like heavy, light sport, heavy 4-ply. I'm getting that very confused today. It was £5.95. I mean, that is for 100 grams of British wool, British processed, British manufactured for under £6 is quite something. So I got 2 balls of this. No plans whatsoever, but I was like, 12 quid for 200 grams. I can't say no to that, and I would support T-Bay all day long, because it's like part of our family culture is stopping at T-Bay for a little break while we're up and down the motorway system. That was everything for Edinburgh. I think that Rosina and Michelle also did very well in Edinburgh. I didn't really buy a lot at the actual show itself. I bought a couple of patterns, but I knew that was going to be the case going into the yarn show. I was kind of just there soaking it up, chatting with people and having fun and enjoying myself rather than doing loads of shopping. And then this weekend I was working at Wonderwool Wales, so I didn't get to go out and really see the yarn show at large. But it's my favourite yarn show in the whole of the UK, because it's massive, the people are so friendly, the other vendors are having a great time. It's like, for yarn vendors, it's usually their favourite yarn show in the calendar of the year, because it's just really good fun, and it's in beautiful scenery in mid Wales and everybody loves it. But I did pick up a couple of bits from there. No surprises, because I was working on the John Arbon stand. I bought a second skein of Sea Fader lace, because I also got, I didn't even know this existed until that weekend, Stephen and Penelope were there vending. and I wanted to see whether their glow hair was any good. This is one of the most expensive mohairs on the market. This was £12 for 25 grams, so I wanted to test it. One as part of the overall blog post, but also I want to pair it up with Sea Fader lace and see how that comes out. So the glow hair is coming in at 210 meters for 25 grams. It is slightly more luxurious than some of them at 64% mohair and 36% mulberry silk. The dye on it is really good, so it's got really good dyed full core as well. And what I mean by that is that the silk has pretty much also took on the same dye colour. Sometimes the silk doesn't take on the same amount of dye and it reads as very silver within the yarn, but with this one it feels a little more fully dyed and saturated. And the mohair, it is lovely and soft, but you know me, once I've used this I will tell you whether I think it is worth like the £12 price point or not, or whether there are other yarns there that might be a lower price point and just as beautiful to work with. But these two are also going to get paired together to make something gorgeous. And then finally, this is a lot of incoming yarn, and I looked at it all this morning and I was like, I need to stop now. I really don't need yarn for the rest of the year, but it brings me joy, so why not? One of the few stands that I managed to get to at the weekend that I've just been at Wonderwool was the Camels yarn. I did say in the last podcast, having made the Omni Shawl with it, that I would go and buy more of their yarn. She's so lovely when you chat with her, and I really love her colourways. And I saw something at Edinburgh, it was a jumper where they'd used undyed on the top and then a motif with a very slightly variegated yarn as part of the colour work system, and then the undyed on the bottom, and it was really striking. It really drew me in. I've been thinking about it for the last week, so I told myself that if I found something that I could do something similar with and find two colours that work together in a similar way for a crochet project, then I would get them. These are going to be a shawl, I think. And after me telling you last time that Strandline was no longer a colourway that she was doing at the Camels yarn, oh, lo and behold, she had Strandline in her Nordlund DK base, which is 100 grams non-superwash, and it is 25% Bluefaced Leicester, 75% BFL, 25% Massam, and this is one of the blends I really love. So, knowing already how well Strandline works up in crochet, because the little blips of colour are so short that they don't pull, so I know this is great already for the crochet project that I'm thinking of. And I also know that this beautiful muted kind of greyish blue is already represented in Strandline, so I know these two are going to smash together really well, work well together, and that this is pretty much a semi-solid, maybe with a couple of darker bits, but not enough that it's going to detract from this variegated yarn. So at some point these two are going to be smooshed together in a shawl, but that really scratched the itch that I had going on for this kind of colour combination and colour work with these two together. So this will become something in the future. I've got an idea that I've just remembered for some colour work, and I think it will work with these two. So I'm pretty chuffed about that. That is all I'm going to show you. That is not it. There was more yarn, but it's stuff that I either can't show you because it's for designs, or it's so small batch that there is no point in showing you because you're never going to get your hands on it, and there's no point in me telling you about it really. But that is everything that came back with me from Edinburgh and Wonderwool. And I genuinely, in case you're wondering, I do feel slightly icky about the amount of yarn that I have, but that's only when I see it together. but it brings me so much joy. Like, it's my livelihood, and I'm so passionate about yarn, and British yarn in particular, and British breeds. It brings me joy to be able to bring it back and share it with you all, and like hopefully enthuse you to try some different yarns as well. So hopefully that's what you take away from all of my yarn purchasing and usage. I go through a lot of yarn, rather than you thinking, oh my god, that's so much yarn, Faye, it's kind of disgusting. But you know, it's all pretty much bought with a purpose in mind, and I do a lot of crafting, like both for myself for the podcast and for the business. So it brings me joy. It's what I love more than anything. Possibly Matthew and Pom Pom are that higher up in the ranks, but then it's yarn, very definitely. Right, I am rambling. I just have one more thing to tell you about, which is that I think I'm going to head up to Lancaster. If anyone fancies coming and joining me, that would be amazing. Kate at Northern Yarns has been going for 10 years, and on the 16th of May she's opening up the shop. I think it would be open normally, but she's going to do fizz and cakes, and she's got a birthday yarn coming for having been there for 10 years. And I remember going to Kate when she was sharing a shop years and years ago at the very beginning of her journey, and seeing the development of that shop and how much she showcases and highlights British wool, British breeds is just amazing. So I'm going to head up there. I'll pop a link. It takes you through to her Facebook invite group and tells you all the details for the open day on the 16th of May. It's from 10 till 4. Lancaster is a beautiful city anyway. I think I'm going to head up on the train. If anyone fancies meeting up, I would happily be there all day long, meet you in the shop, go and have a little crafting session, go and find lunch somewhere. I also plan on doing the charity shops in Lancaster because I think they're pretty good. So if you fancy it, hit me up in the comments and I'll try and get together a little craft group if anybody else fancies coming. So that would be Lancaster for Northern Yarn birthday, 10th birthday, which is no small thing in this day and age with bricks and mortar shops to still be surviving and thriving. So I'd love to go up there and support Kate and see what her birthday yarn is. She says it's something a little bit unusual this time, so that would be great. And maybe I'll see some of you there if you fancy coming and having a little crochet knitting session with me and some yarn sniffing. Not sure I'll be purchasing because you've seen how much I've just bought, but definitely there will be yarn sniffing going on. Maybe see you there. Right, that is everything. I will be pulling together the blog post for the Edinburgh yarn shops. It probably just will be next week because I've got quite a lot of catch up to do, having been away from my desk for quite a lot of the last 2 weeks. Until a fortnight's time, thank you very much for being here, and also final word for everybody that came and said hello at Edinburgh and at Wonderwool. Thank you so much. Everybody got hugged. I love Ruth. She just looked at me and she went, I am waving. Just to let me know that she was kind of one of the podcast followers. It was so nice to see so many people. And also thank you for the comments. For I said last time, it can feel really self-indulgent sitting here just talking about yarn and crochet and knitting. So to know that you genuinely look forward to this podcast dropping once a fortnight, and that it means that what I do means so much to you, means so much to me, because the connection in the community is what I'm doing this for. It's not about advertising, it's not about getting money back from Google. This is connection, pushing yarn, talking about patterns, and a two-way street. So that was really helpful and really lovely to hear back. Thank you very much. If you can, hit me up with a comment. What are you working on? I love to see what you're all working on. What yarns are you using? Have you used any of the yarns I've spoken about in this podcast? I would love to know. And hit the like button if you can. I am off. I am waving. I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye-bye.